lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slaying, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your not-so-humble host, Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And today on the show, we're going to be reviewing It's a Wonderful Knife, which was released December 1st, 2023 on Shudder. So, Rowan, I want to know, were you looking forward to It's a Wonderful Knife? I almost said It's a Wonderful Life, which, that's a much older movie. But yeah, were you looking forward to this one?
Somewhat, I guess. I kind of heard about this fairly late. I feel like it was only probably a couple weeks ago that I really saw anything about it. I found out about it because they played this in Halifax at the theater, and I was like, what the hell is this, and why have I never heard of it? So once I looked into it, I mean, I'm always excited for not just a Christmas horror movie, but to see what Shudder has to provide us. I remember, was it last year that we did Christmas Bloody Christmas, or was that the year before?
Yeah. No, I think it was last year.
Yeah, and I remember that being a fairly good time, so I was like, all right, Shudder Christmas horror, let's see what they got for us. What about you? Were you looking forward to it?
This was one that I heard about a couple of months ago when it had its premiere at Beyond Fest back in October. So I heard this one, and then I know it was streaming in limited release throughout the States in November. So it was the sort of thing where it was on my radar, but it completely slipped my mind until we were kind of looking for movies to continue reviewing on Now Slaying as we got closer to the end of the year. So was I looking forward to this? I'm going to say probably, mildly. I did think it was directed by Christopher Landon leading up to literally when the movie started, just because, I don't know, it's kind of seemed like his sort of vibe, like a pun in the name and, I don't know, kind of following teenage characters, slasher villain, all that sort of thing. It just kind of seemed like his brand of horror. But I was wrong. It's not directed by him. So that was the sort of thing. As I was watching it, I was kind of had a watchful eye of all right, is this just falling apart? Is this Christopher Landon? What is this? And before I get too deep in my thoughts, I think we should probably just throw it on over to the trailer.
Angel Falls, I give you Christmas.
The lights are so pretty. This is perfect.
Oh. What did you eat?
Please wake up. Mayor Waters? Last Christmas still haunts me.
Time to let that go.
No one cares. Everyone would be better off if I was never born. Did you see that? Did the power go out? Oh my god. I stood under the aurora and said everyone would be better off if I never existed. Well, wish granted.
The angel strikes every couple of weeks.
How can that be?
Do I know you?
It's Winnie, you know that.
Okay. This her?
Hi, I'm Henry Waters. You're safe now. He's not gonna get you.
No one in this town knows me.
Who are you?
Dad, you weren't around to stop him, so he just kept going. He likes killing.
I'm here now. Let's have some fun. Hey, you!
Hey, Merry Christmas. We gotta stop him and get my life back.
You'll be safe now. Please.
What you just heard is from It's a Wonderful Knife, directed by Tyler McIntyre and written by Michael Kennedy, and the story is as follows. After saving her town from a psychotic killer, Winnie Carruthers finds her life to be anything but wonderful. When she wishes she'd never been born, she finds herself in a parallel universe where, without her, things could have been much, much worse. Now, here on Now Slaying, we like to keep things relatively spoiler-free up front before getting into the more in-depth, spoiler-filled discussion. So, Rowan, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on It's a Wonderful Knife?
So, I mean, my first thoughts on this as we got into it was, for a Shudder movie, I was actually kind of pretty impressed with, like, the cast list of this. We're going a little higher end than, you know, most
Justin
Shudder
Long,
stuff.
Joel McHale. You know, God, what's her name? What's her name from Ginger Snaps?
Catherine Isabel.
There you go. Yeah, just disrespecting Ginger Snaps here again.
And then, of course, I was super pumped that Cassandra Nod, that played the Catherine Isabel's character's like wife.
Oh, okay.
She's from another great Shudder film that I saw Mike Flanagan recently liked on Letterboxd.
So interestingly enough, I saw that as well, and I was like, I think it's funny that he never gave it a star rating. But anyways, go on and hype up the movie.
So yeah, from Influencer, and I talked about it on the main cast, that I really, really enjoyed it. I've actually seen it a couple times already, and it was kind of, I thought it was a smart film, but it was cool to see her because she's like, that's really like all she was in, really, for like.
She's the actress with the birthmark going across her face, right? So before I knew it was a birthmark, I did have a note that I said, is that a real birthmark or just some bad makeup? Because it was the sort of thing that it's a large enough birthmark, it's a distinguishing feature, that I was like, okay, they either really want us to notice this character, or, the casting director was just trying to be inclusive and making sure that we had a diverse look to to our cast and crew. But I mean, she definitely has a look. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets more work.
Yeah. And, I think she's pretty fantastic actress. Sadly, I'm talking about her, but she's very little in this movie. She's just kind of the background. So
she's like, what is it, like gay aunt, or the gay aunt's partner?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, to me, for this, I could definitely see what they wanted to do with it. Like you said, like the trailers and everything, you're like, oh my God, is this, Christopher Landon doing a Shudder movie or something? It definitely has that vibe. It makes sense that the writer is the guy that wrote Freaky. So, sadly, I don't know. I kind of felt like I liked the overall ideas in it, but I felt it was disjointed. I thought a lot of the story was just kind of wasn't tied in together very well. For Christmas horror, there's kind of a lot. This is the holiday that there's a lot of Christmas horror movies. So I feel like there's this super high standard that you kind of have to reach.
Yeah, it's a natural holiday that you want to have horror movies around, other than obviously Halloween. It's just because the contrast, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It should elevate the material, make it a lot more fun.
Yeah, I just felt that maybe some of the other outings we've had in Christmas horror have kind of used the theme of Christmas a little better in its actual horror. This is kind of a Christmas movie in a setting, but not really. What are some of your initial thoughts when you were watching it? I'm wondering if I'm totally off base here.
No, I kind of have similar feelings to yourself. When I was watching this, instantly I just noticed right away that I thought the acting was just subpar, basically across the board. I know you shouted out a couple of people, and it was the sort of thing where I was wondering how campy and how awful it was supposed to be. So much so that the cold open, which is quite long, I'd say about 20 minutes before we get the title card and we kind of move into what the actual movie is about. I was wondering if it was going to be a Malignant sort of thing, where it was oh, the opening is just super cheesy. Now we're getting this brooding drama, and then it'll get cheesy again at the end when, we need to amp things up again. But this, I think, is just a case of misdirection, where I think a lot of people are just turning in bad performances, and then throughout the movie, sometimes it's a really bad scene, sometimes it's a good scene. It's just up and down all over the place. And you said this writer, Michael Kennedy, he wrote Freaky. I remember liking Freaky, and I don't remember having any issues with the writing. I think the writing in this movie is genuinely awful. There were so many little notes that I just kind of pointed out that I was just what on earth? Why is this in here? For example, that's kind of vaguely spoilers, but there's a scene where they're at a party, and then two of the characters are just talking to each other, and there's loud Christmas music or party music in the background. And then someone leans over and goes, "Can you keep it down?" I'm like, when at a party with like, I don't know, dubstep playing. Have you ever been told to keep it down? And it wasn't like a comedic beat. It was like an earnest note, like, hey, can you keep it down? Like, you're talking too loud. And I was just like, no, like, that's just not how people work. There was also some like character revelations when we kind of get into what the core conceit of what this movie's about, that a lot of the characters kind of felt pretty flat, didn't really make sense to me. Yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling through, and it's hard to talk around it because a lot of my like writer issue notes wind up being kind of vaguely spoilers, so I don't want to get into it. But anyways, the writing, in my opinion, was just all around bad. There's a scene in the beginning where I want to tiptoe across this carefully because I'm not trying to upset any of our listeners, but I found it kind of strange that the movie, it's like, hey, here's our gay son. He gets a rainbow to put on the tree. Here's our gay aunts that walk in the picture. And there's also more gay revelations as the movie goes out. So it's just something strange that I noticed when I was watching the movie, that I was just like, I'm fine with having LGBTQ plus characters in this. It was funny as I was watching it that I was like, was this the only way that the writer was able to make it feel like more modern? Or were they trying to, pander to a certain demographic? Because I've seen a lot of the reviews on Letterboxd really excited about that aspect. But it was just something to me that felt really forced, I guess. I don't want to say on the nose, because obviously loads of people in society. But it was something that was strange, I think, as I was watching it, that I noticed. I don't know if you noticed it at all, or maybe I'm just weird, but
I actually did have that kind of noted. I just thought it was interesting because, like you said, like, I just think maybe what they really wanted to do just, like, didn't come across, where, like, to me, the epitome of what this should have been is what Justin Long was the entire time. Like, Justin Long was super campy.
He's over the top. He's kind of doing like a televangelist almost. Yeah. Like, he kind of seems like just like a snake oil salesman.
And those teeth, fantastic.
Teeth, his weird God contact lenses, like everything. Like, it was just a very heightened reality that was.
Yeah, and to me, I was like, I could have totally been on board with like the super campy slasher that's just fun, isn't really like taking itself too serious. But like I said, I felt so much of the story, like what made it disjointed to me was like the tones in it. Cause I was like, I'd get this feeling where I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of gonna be this like fun romp. We're kind of getting into it now. It's gonna be a little campy. And then they would just like jolt you like, no, we're actually gonna be like super serious right now.
That's where the cold open, like, there's these weird jokes about OnlyFans and guy's dick hanging out or whatever else is happening in that cold open. It goes on so long I can't remember anymore. But then when we get to the actual conceit of the movie, it's like all the color is sucked out of the world. The main character is very upset. It looks like all of a sudden she's wandered into an A24 movie for 5 minutes with way worse lighting and production design. It's just like, okay, is this what the movie's supposed to be? It was just like the entire time I was just kind of distracted. I never really got into the movie, whether it was like the GMC product placement that they make a big moment out of, or whether it's just like all the bad lighting, the writing, the acting, absolutely everything to me pretty much like didn't work in this movie. Going so far even as like the killer, to me they just looked like Moon Knight, like running around and like the white getup and the white mask and stuff, and then the killer's signature weapon being a knife that looks like it should be straight out of a giallo movie. I was essentially like, why didn't they make this a giallo? Like, basically, one of my first notes is, why isn't this a giallo? Which, obviously, we've discussed giallo for a couple of years now on this podcast. I usually hate them. They're just not my vibe. Yeah. But when I was watching this, I was kind of like, a giallo movie with Christmas lighting as a way to kind of explain this really over-the-top lighting would have been interesting. What this is not interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That could have been like an interesting kind of twist on it. And this is what's kind of worrying me right now. And I guess this is like almost a larger conversation, dear Lord, on a kind of throwaway Christmas horror movie. But I'm kind of getting worried for my folks at Shudder right now, where I'm like, is this just like the hallmarkification of Shudder? Like, are we just kind of putting out anything right now that like we're just Shudder is churning out product faster than anyone can consume it? And I just kept thinking about this, and I guess it's probably because we're getting into that season, so bad Christmas movies all around are beginning to be shown on television, and I'm I'm kind of like, I get the ideas, but then I'm also kind of like, I don't know, did this really, need to be made? Was there overall like real purpose for it? Because it does seem so shoddily like stitched together and almost like, I feel like it's too easy for everyone to, do the Netflix excuse. Like, this seems like it's written by an AI. But, like, it just seems like we were just kind of like, yeah, let's throw in, like, these, like, generic tropes, like, generic characters. Let's make them, hip for the new crowd. And, and do some, like, uninspiring killing. Like, I'm sure we'll get more into it in the kind of spoiler section, but I just felt like even the kills in this, I was like not interested.
Is there even any kill that would be a spoiler? It's, the guy has a knife. Every single kill in the movie, I'm pretty sure, is a stab, more or less, like a swipe. It's all like CGI blood for like 90% of it. And I guess there are a couple of moments where it strays away from that, but I mean, when we watched something like a couple of weeks ago, like Thanksgiving, with, much more elaborate kills and practical effects and, just a lot more creativity, this is like, this completely falls flat. Like, none of it was interesting. None of it.
No.
it was a nothing burger of a movie. And whatever was interesting, it was trying to make happen from its, like, It's a Wonderful Life title and basically conceit. And it's just like, none of that worked either. So I don't know. I have nothing really to say other than the score. I do think was actually pretty decent. I will say the horror score mixed with the Christmas music, with like the sleigh bells and these twinkle sounds and all that stuff. I thought it was pretty interesting and inspired at times. Other than that, I didn't enjoy any other aspect of this movie. It's definitely not a recommend from me. Rowan, what would you think? Would you recommend this?
Yeah, I think I'm going to not recommend this. And usually, even if it's bad, I'm like, why not? And, this is just kind of in your home. But yeah, I'm going to say I'd probably skip on this one. There's better Christmas horror movies. And it's kind of a shame because this is really, I know in my area, this is like the first Shudder film I've ever seen come to theater. And it just kind of makes me sad that this is what they, did with that. I wish it was something else that I would have been, really upset at myself that I didn't see in the theater. But yeah, I don't know if this was the best foot forward for at least my area, you playing this in the theater.
Well, yeah, I guess what I have to say about that is I don't think it's like produced by Shudder or anything like this. From what I see, it's just distributed by them. So maybe it was just the type of thing that's got a little bit of buzz at the festival, so they chose to put their name on it. But yeah, it's not like produced by them, from what I could find at least. Yeah, so that looks like neither of us are going to recommend this. And with that, I think it's time to cut to the spoiler discussion for It's a Wonderful Knife. You're now in the spoiler discussion for It's a Wonderful Knife. So if you've not seen It's a Wonderful Knife, it's time to tune out and come back once you've seen the movie, or keep listening if you simply don't care. Rowan, I usually throw it to you to kick things off in the spoiler-filled discussion, but I just kind of want to get back to like my writing issue, where obviously I noticed this like so quickly in the movie that just everyone kind of spoke like aliens, and it just seemed like they were trying to force as many jokes in as possible. But for example, like basically the big thing that happens at the beginning of the movie is that the main character's best friend is killed, and then she kills the killer in the cold open, right? Like, and basically it jumps a year forward from that point. From that point on, we get to see like kind of what the ramifications of her actions were, what happened to the town and the people in it. And the main thing was, the first like big misstep to me was the character of Buck, who I don't even know if you remember who that character is.
Oh yeah.
He is like the influencer, self-absorbed character who's there like on TikTok as like someone's like trying to like vibe with him because they like, I don't know, were in the same gym class or some shit like that. And he's just literally so upset, so distraught by his brother's death, threatening and cornering the main character. And I'm like, have you never been around a self-absorbed person? He would have like capitalized off his brother's death. He would have had like these fake memorials and videos, and like he would have completely turned all that drama to kind of like elevate himself up and like hype him up, and then, you know, kind of be sad on the side, but not actually sad. And that sort of vibe with this movie is more in line of what it's going for. But this movie just can't do anything right. He shows up and he's like supposed to be aggressive and all this and like scary, and I'm like, what on earth happened to this guy? I understand there's the idea of like you want to show a big divide, a big shift between, you know, 1 year in time's passage, but it's just like it was so bad. It's just like, this is the least interesting turn that you could have done for this character. So yeah, Buck was the very first time that I was like, this is bad writing, and it just continued. I think, you know, I think the party scene was after then. There's loads of stuff in the third act that I was just completely like tuned out of and like rolling my eyes and just like, this is all awful, specifically like with the family and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. This movie fell apart quick for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just kind of ranting.
Yeah, no, I think as the movie goes on, which is kind of a shame because it's as the movie goes on and starts to reveal more and more what it is, that this is very much so a freaky style, Christopher Landon style film. Yeah, it just really starts falling apart. I had a lot of issues with like, so, you know, apparently the entire town is, you know, just smoking crack now. And... yeah. But there's no explanation of why the entire town smokes crack. Everybody, kids, adults, grandparents, everyone's smoking crack.
Well, that you jumped ahead to the alternate reality. I wasn't even in the alternate reality yet. I'm wondering about things like, why does someone with trauma from like, you know, that happened a year ago around Christmas time have, you know, like Christmas... you know, what's it called? Carol of the Bells, not Herald of the Bells. Anyways, it has like a little piece of that as her ringtone. So when she's getting like texts to go to a party, it's like playing pieces of Christmas music. I'm like, you have trauma from a Christmas related event, and you're reminded every single day of your life that you will never forget it. It's just once again so many things that were woefully like just not considered by the writing. But yes, let's jump ahead to the alternate reality that you were discussing, because have you seen It's a Wonderful Life?
No.
Okay, so that's the thing. You probably don't really understand this even more because it is literally just aping It's a Wonderful Life, right? Where the main character essentially, he wants to kill himself. And a fallen angel kind of comes and shows him a world, you know, without himself in it. It's, you know, it's basically a Christmas Carol, you know, with Scrooge and whatnot, which is interesting because I don't understand how these Zoomers would all, you know, be such big fans of It's a Wonderful Life. Like, it's interesting. Like, they're calling each other, God, what is the name of the angel in that movie? Clarence, I think, or something. They're like calling each other Clarence, and they're referencing like It's a Wonderful Life, and Clarence is the name of the fallen angel in the movie. It's just so weird. So that's what they're doing. They're showing a world without her, so without the killer being killed. And that, oh, no, there's been 26 or 27 murders or something that's happened in the last year. So, yeah, I guess everybody, instead of dealing with it, they just smoke crack, which...
yeah, like I said...
it's interesting.
It was just wild to me. It was like the crack smoking, you know, getting towards the end, like, apparently everyone is also just, like... hypnotized and like zombie-like for no reason.
So I don't remember that in It's a Wonderful Life. Everyone gets these weird blue CGI eyes that kind of vaguely look like the contact lenses that Justin Long has in. And they're just all like, yeah, you know what? I kind of forgot about that. I'm looking at the bottom of my notes here. Yeah, it turns into a very, very strange movie. I have a note that says, what the fuck is this ending where Henry Waters is a cult leader and murdering folks on stage? Which you got to remember, that happens after already like kind of the moment where the main character saves her friend's life, and, you know, it winds up basically being like, I was going to kill myself, but you treated me with respect and I feel loved and all this stuff. And it just winds up being this weird reveal of like having to fight Henry Waters on stage as he's murdering people in front of an audience of like possessed individuals or some shit. Yeah, I don't know what that is from. I have no idea.
Yeah, and it was just, like I said, to me, it was just, it's not the fact that this stuff is in it. It's just the fact that none of it's earned because none of it's explained. So you have no idea what's going on. It's just happening because it's happening. No one ever, you know, other than, you know, our main characters of, like, Winnie and Bernie being like, oh, that, like, why are you guys just watching? Oh, like these guys are like in a trance or something. Like that's the only acknowledgement of it. And it's very, very bizarre. I will say that I did like the nod that I understood was on the marquee of the theater, the I Know What You Did Last Christmas, which why aren't we getting that movie? That's my
I don't want to see that movie. I'm good. I don't want to see it because it'll be done by this team again, and this will be like, oh, we were seeding the idea here in this movie, and I don't want to see it. I'm good. You were talking about kills. You mentioned kills in the spoiler-free discussion. Honestly, like, okay, I remember there's an axe kill at one point that's like, you know, framed through a window where they put a bunch of CGI blood all over it. And then when Joel McHale gets impaled by a pole, I mean, I don't really remember much else. There's a candy cane through the head in the
and
cold
the candy
open,
cane through the head is kind of where I wanted to go because, like I said, this is kind of the one Christmas kill in this movie. Where, like we said in the spoiler-free section, because it's really not much of a spoiler, like, you know, all the kills in this are just kind of, you know, I'm stabbing you with a knife. I'm stabbing you with an item. Like you said, it's like this CG blood that...
Oh, and sometimes it's even worse than that. Sometimes, and a lot of them are shot this way, where it's profile, where they put them in profile, and then you could tell that the knife just went like behind their head or behind their arm or behind their belly. A lot of it is it's very amateur. I don't know. It's very much like you'd probably try that stuff in middle school to like hide how you were stabbing someone. It's very strange. Some of it is so low budget and just uninspired that once again I was just disappointed by it.
And it just, to me, it's like there's so many of these that, you know, slasher movies that can be absolutely dog shit, but if you can like accomplish like some pretty awesome kills, some inventive ways to kill people, which there should be tons of, like we've seen this kind of thing work, like we said, with Thanksgiving that we just did. Like, take the theme, make the kills based around the theme, so everyone can have a chuckle, or everyone can get a gross out, and, like, kind of hit those benchmarks. Where this, it was just kind of like, whatever, like... You know, we stabbed him in the gut. That should be good enough for you. And I just felt it was like lazy. I just felt it was like lazy. And like I said, to me, it's just this whole film just kind of felt like we had to put something together for Christmas. So we just threw something together and just kind of did it as like unthoughtful and quickly as we possibly could.
Yeah. Another thing that you're probably missing as well is like the name of the killer is the Angel. Right, which is, once again, that's taken from It's a Wonderful Life with the fallen angel. So they're trying to harken it back to Christmas because It's a Wonderful Life is a classic Christmas movie, and constantly have like that presence there all the time, obviously. But once again, this guy just looks like Moon Knight. Like, he doesn't look like a scary killer, and his weapon, once again, should be out of a giallo movie. So we're talking about uninspired kills. We're talking about an uninspired movie. And basically, it's just kind of like, I would have been fine with all the kills in this movie being a knife if this was a giallo that was like, you know, this was oozing like cool lighting and sex and interesting characters, and this was like very tense and, you know, like it was kind of a noir trying to figure out who it was. But the movie's very much not that either. Like, I'm sorry, you're an idiot if you don't know who the killer is in this movie, basically by it starts. I have two names written down at the top of it. I have obviously Justin Long and Joel McHale are the killers. I have that. It's my fourth note on my list of things. Obviously. It's so obvious, especially when they're like, oh, this guy always works for me, and I bring him in to kind of on Christmas Day to kind of, you know, strong arm people into signing contracts or do my dirty work and all that stuff. It's so obvious that when in the cold open, when Justin Long gets killed off in that alternate reality, I was like, okay, well, there's one person that it could be in the other one. And the movie treats this as like a big twist. And it's so stupid. Like, once again, it's literally this blatant. It's like Joel McHale is on screen and his drunk wife, you know, his wino wife says like, oh, he leaves all hours of the night and day. I never see him coming and going. He's so mysterious. And then he's like, oh, there he goes again. And he literally walks out the front door, and I shit you not, 30 seconds later, the angel's like in there, like killing him. He literally walked off screen to change into costume, and we're all supposed to be surprised that it's Joel McHale. Like, give me a break.
It was not a very well done whodunit, so it also wouldn't work very much as a giallo. So
Yeah, well, not with this creative team, obviously. I'm saying, with a much better creative team, you could have made this. And you could have kept the name. It's a Wonderful Knife is a great name for a giallo movie, a Christmas giallo movie. Anyways, I got to get back to where I went on my LGBTQ plus tirade in the spoiler-free discussion. I just need to make sure the listeners know that I'm not a bigot. I'm curious, did you think that the main character and weirdo were like a romantic relationship throughout the whole movie? And did you get that? Or like, did I miss something just as a straight white dude? Or was this just like something that came out of nowhere for you?
No, I felt like the vibe was kind of weird. Like, I thought it was definitely going to kind of be like, oh, they'll like partner up in this friendship and then, they're going to like solve this mystery and do all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I just felt like it was weird, kind of like all the relationships in this, like nothing's explained, nothing's built. So you can definitely tell in like, I guess what is the real reality at the beginning of this movie that they all call her weirdo. Like you could tell she has like this fascination with Winnie, but it doesn't overly seem like there's nothing that it implies like it's romantic or interested. And also,
I think the characters also just say like she's a loner and a stalker type, and keeps to herself. Which there's a bunch of gay people in this movie that aren't isolated from the society that way. So it's literally very much like she's just a weirdo, right? She's weird.
Yeah. Well, and then like I said, and then we're kind of have this other weird plot going on with Winnie and her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's like cheating on her with, this cheerleader girl. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was just kind of weird. And like, I guess as I reflect now, I'm like, oh, okay. They're kind of, setting up that she's like bi, and, so the football player has slighted her. So, at the end she builds this but like I said, there's no building of this relationship.
Yeah, I guess it's setting her up as bi insofar as every single movie where there's, they get dumped or someone cheats on them and they have friends, that there's the possibility of being bi-curious in every single character, I guess. It was just so strange because, like, the end of the movie is basically like, you saved my life, I was going to kill myself, you value me, I value you as a friend. And then they're just like, more than a friend, basically.
Yeah.
They're like, they just make out for a second. I'm like, okay, interesting. I didn't see that at all. And then when we cut back to the other reality, Weirdo, the character, like she remembers that they had a relationship. So it literally is like even further that it's like, I'm going to go track her down on Christmas morning, which for some reason, my boyfriend and the girl he was cheating on me with are walking through the streets on Christmas morning, holding hands. For some reason, just so I can basically be like, oh, I'm fine with you guys, by the way. So I can go over to my girlfriend's house. Because it's implied, like, there at the end that they're going to start a relationship or continue a relationship, right? Like, why else would you invite that girl over to your house Christmas morning, come meet the family and all that stuff? Like, I don't think I misread the ending of the movie. It was such an unearned, like, romantic ending. Like, I would have preferred for this shit to be motivated, or at least throughout the movie. Like, once again, like, the movie is not ashamed of like propping up these LGBTQ characters. It's just like you could have had the main character be obviously gay for the movie or bi or something, right? Like it's a very strange detail to like kind of hang your hat on and end the movie. And to me, it just feels very much like you have to like this movie now, which once again, a lot of the Letterboxd people are basically giving it positive reviews because it's like, oh yes, slay queen type of shit, right? Which is just like, come on, like you could look for that sort of representation in much better movies than this one.
Like everything we just keep saying, like nothing's earned in this, and I just thought it was weird too because like as Winnie comes back and all is sorted out and everything, I don't know if I fully buy into like and I get the references to like kind of like a Christmas Carol, like she's a whole new person, she's rocking the pink sweatsuit now and loving it
and running down the street and cheering out, like that's what happens at the end of It's a Wonderful Life, right? It's like Merry Christmas, running out into the streets, and basically all these people like that he's wronged by being a ruthless businessman. It's now like, oh, okay, he has a new
which is
lease on
fine,
life.
but I don't know even if catching multiple murderers would still make me want to wear that atrocious 2002 pink sweatsuit. So
also, her family still sucks, by the way.
Oh yeah,
it's
100%.
She's gonna have a good day, I guess, on Christmas Day, as hopefully most people do. But Boxing Day, I mean, she's just gonna have all these issues again because she has such a shitty family.
Also, they still only bought her a camera. They bought him a truck, which I'm sure was $80,000.
Yeah,
and they bought her
100%.
a camera.
Yeah,
so
which is you don't want to be that person, basically, oh, you got me just a small gift. But yeah, I mean, her gift is 80 times smaller. Another note before we get into rating this, I have to note the credit song. Did you notice it? Joy to the girls all around the world.
Yeah.
So girl power, credit song. Obviously the lead is a woman. There's multiple parts in this movie where, you get all these women team up. Written and directed by two dudes. So I just want to say that because we could say girl power and, joy to the girls all around the world, but obviously it still has to be written and directed by two dudes for sure.
That's where I like to get all my feminism from. So
yeah, just everything about this just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Rowan, can we review this so I can get out of here?
Of course.
So if you're new to the podcast, our review rubric is nay, okay, yay, or slay. So Rowan, what would you give It's a Wonderful Knife?
This is kind of doing the opposite of what normally happens, where I come in, I know what I'm going to give it, we talk, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I got to bump that one up. This is complete opposite. It's like an alternate reality where we talk about it, and then I think I got to bump it down. So I was fully prepared to come in and just give it a pretty mild okay. And you know what? No, it's definitely a nay for me. I just thought, to me, this was offensively bad.
Literally all you said that you liked about this movie was that, oh, they got some big names on the cast.
That
Not
was
even
it.
that
That
those
was
big
it.
names gave good performances, by the way. That they were big names present.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of my issue. The really the only part I enjoyed of this movie was the super campy, hammy Justin Long performance. But guess what? Realistically, he's barely in this. His screen time is not that much. You might think it is, but like we said, he is essentially not the killer in this alternate reality for most of it. So we're not dealing with Justin Long at all. And yeah, I said, I just think there's better holiday horror movies that you can do. Even something like Christmas Bloody Christmas that was, at least fun, kind of very genre, also very campy.
Way better than this movie.
Yeah. That's where you need to go. And if I recall, that one had tons of Christmas related kills where,
absolutely.
Yeah, this is just a half-assed done slasher movie that they're, it's a piece of shit they're trying to hide in a wrapped Christmas present. So, yeah, it's going to be a big nay from me. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, I think this one's going on my naughty list. It's a nay from me as well. Basically, outside of the score, there's nothing redeeming about this movie, in my opinion. I don't think the cinematography is good. I don't think they make good by the conceit of it being based on It's a Wonderful Life. I don't think the acting, the writing, the slasher design, the kills, absolutely nothing works for what I want out of this movie. If it does work for you, I'm glad that you enjoyed this. But yeah, this is a nay from me, and I have no intention of ever watching it again. And if you guys try and force to make me watch it on the podcast, I'm sick that day. And yeah, with that, if you're not following us already on our socials, you can do so at It Slays Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Blue Sky. I mean, I don't know if anyone's on Blue Sky really, but we're there at It Slays Podcast if that's happened to be what you're using. If you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Stephen, Joy, Carvey, and Dan, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams and get episodes of the main show 48 hours early. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Rowan, I don't know if any of the music from this is on Spotify, but like
We
I
might
said,
have to take a look. The score was
it's
pretty
the
good.
only redeeming quality, so have a look at least.
Yeah, if it is, we'll add it on there. And go check out the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist. You can search it on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that Colton mentioned beforehand. Go to the bio, click the Linktree link, and it'll take you directly to it. We upload iconic horror music, licensed or score from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love. So yeah, go take a listen, get your spooky music on. And I don't know, there might be some holiday spooky music on there already. I feel like there's got to be something from Black Christmas or something on there. So
There has to be. And with that, next time on the show, unless something comes out in the month of December on Shudder, which, I don't know, there's definitely a possibility of another Christmas Shudder movie coming out and hopefully being markedly better than this one. But if not, then, of course, as we all know, January, February, it's a good couple of months for horror. Most of them are trash, and I guess we'll be checking out Night Swim to see if that's one of them or not. So yeah, next time on the show, probably Night Swim, unless something else crops up. And with that, I think that about wraps things up for this episode. So until next time, I'm Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And as long as you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.